Wild ryes. They're one of the native cool season grasses, and there's a handful of different species. Characteristically, they look fairly similar, and we want to teach you today how to identify the seedlings of those plants. We actually have both a seedling and a tiller from an established plant in front of us, and sometimes it's easier that the plants actually look fairly similar. One's just a miniature of the other, so sometimes it's easier to see those characteristics on the big one. So we're going to look at that, but we're also going to look at it on the little one. So to begin with, we're going to look at the fact that a wild rye, of course, is a grass. And grasses have leaves that are parallel. And so, like long, skinny leaves with parallel veins. They don't tend to be broad-leafed, in other words, rounded shaped like an elephant ear or something like that. Prairie dock if you're into native plants. They tend to be long, skinny, narrow leaves. So this is a grass-like looking leaf. So, of course, we're dealing with a cool season grass. It's going to look like a grass. Both with the seedling and with our established plant. Very long, skinny leaves. Okay, that's one characteristic. Next, we're going to look at the fact, how is the tiller base? Tiller, that's a funny word you say. So the tiller is like a stem of the grass. And so we've got two tillers here. We've got one tiller here. And how do we get, what is the shape of the tiller at the base? No, we're not talking about the shape of the stem up here. We're talking about down here. And so if we take our bigger plant here, what shape is it? Well, this is round. Like I can roll it between my fingers. It doesn't feel like a football. It doesn't feel flat like a piece of paper folded in half. It feels round. And I can also roll, this is quite a young seedling. Of course, wild rye seedlings will get bigger through the season. Here we are in like mid to late April, and this seedling has germinated, but it's not very big, right? And so if we were out here in May, this would be bigger, a lot easier to roll in my fingers is what I'm trying to get around to here. But I can roll it, feels round. It's a little harder to tell because again, it's just not the size that this one is. So it has a round tiller base. What's next? Another characteristic of the wild rye is that the leaves feel rough when they're rubbed between your fingers. So on my established plant here, I can rub it. It's a little rougher one way than the other, but it is definitely catching my fingers. And not all plants will do that. Some of them are very slick on the leaves. So that's a characteristic we can use. Again, my little seedling here, I'm actually going to have an easier time probably seeing the reason why it's rough, which is because there's small hairs. They're very small. Hand lens is going to be, some sort of magnification is going to be very handy if you want to look for the hairs. But one of the things that it does not have, this leaf, is to like separate it from a fescue seedling, because a lot of people do plantings in an old fescue field. So they killed the fescue and they hope they killed it all. But is this seedling a fescue seedling or a wild rye seedling? They can look a lot alike. So I can run my finger, and again, easier on bigger plants, across the leaf, not the long way, but the short way. And on a fescue, it really feels like mountain ranges that my thumbnail's going up and down and, you know, like washboarding over, right? On the wild rye, I mean, I can feel those ridges, the veins, but they're not nearly so distinctive. And you're gonna have to get good at comparing, but go to a fescue plant that you know is fescue if you're worried about that, and learn what it feels like to run your thumbnail across there, and then try to compare to what you think might be a wild rye seedling. That might be helpful to you. So again, I can do this with my little one. The leaf is more soft just because it is a smaller plant, but no mountain ranges that I can feel on this seedling. So there's another characteristic for you to look at the leaf of the grass. Let's stick with characteristics that are easy to see. So another characteristic that's easy to see is the newest leaf. And I can see this, again, everything's easier on a bigger plant, but I can see it on this one and I can see it on this one. This newest leaf that's kind of, this is a leaf that's already all the way emerged, but this one has not fully emerged. And it is coming out rolled. In other words, you know how when you get bored and you have a piece of paper in your hands, maybe you're not like me, but what I do is I roll that up in my hands. And now I've got myself a nice tube to look through or whatever that is, I'm bored. So that is a rolled leaf arrangement. If I'm bored and I take my piece of paper and I crimp it in half, fold it in half, that is not a rolled leaf arrangement, right? I can't look through it, none of that. So that the leaf is rolled like a piece of paper as opposed to flat is a really good characteristic, and I can see that. I need to look close, and magnification, if your seedling is really small, is going to help with everything. But I can actually see it with my naked eye on even this young seedling. Now let's go to a characteristic with a fancy word. Auricle is the word. Auricle is a leaf-like, kind of leaf-like projection off of the collar of the plant. And you're like, oh boy, yeah, that gives me a super solid idea of what an auricle is. Okay, let's go at it a different way. Okay, I'm gonna put my plant down, and we're gonna use my shirt as an example here. So I've got a collar on my shirt, right? And if we imagine that a leaf blade is sticking up here, and I'm the stem of the plant, and so we've got my collar, the auricle, leaf blade, collar, the auricles are little appendages that stick off in front of the stem, but are coming off of that leaf, off of the leaf's collar here. Wild ryes, again, they have these. So plants can have like different characteristics of auricles, including they can be absent. A lot of grasses don't, and this is a term that we use for grasses. A lot of grasses don't have auricles, but the wild ryes do. And so it's a characteristics we can look for. So our auricle on the wild rye, let me get my plant here again. Our auricle on the wild rye, we're going to follow this leaf down. We're going to see that it hooks onto a collar, and then of course it goes down on, you know, kind of like my shirt is on me. This leaf, actually, if you tear it apart, you can see that it actually continues to go on down, circles that stem in. But that auricle is right there at the base of that collar. Just a little like projection that sticks off. Wild ryes, in my experience, don't always have them, but it's a really nice characteristic. If you can find them on there, you're like, ah, that's making me feel, that's one more characteristic than I can find on my seedling to point me in the direction that I have a wild rye. One other thing that really requires a fancy word is a ligule. And a ligule, okay, if we go again to my collar, and we have our leaf blade, we have the sheath wrapping around me, right here on this area, right, you know, like would be coming off of my collar right here, would be the ligule. And so the ligule on this is short. In other words, it's not absent, it's not long, it's short, and it's a little ragged on the end. A hand lens is going to be handy to see that in much detail. Some plants have, like Indian grass has a very prominent ligule. They can even have shapes like rifle-sided or hairy ligules or membranous ligules. There's a bunch of different words to use. Wild rye has one, but it's not really very distinctive. But it's good to know that it has one and it's not super distinctive. You can see with your bare eyes that it has one, but if you want to see the ragged top, some magnification is going to be handy. So again, at first I'm looking at the shape of the plant. I'm looking at a lot of things before I I can rule out a lot of plants because their leaves aren't long, skinny, and grass-like, right? If I'm looking for wild ryes. A couple lookalikes. Indian grass is actually a lookalike, but it has a flattened tiller base. So again, you know, and it's not so important. I mean, if you want to know how to identify each seedling, there's actually really good books to do that. Or we have other videos on our website about also Indian grass seedling ID, big blue stem, partridge pea. But our goal is really to usually either just make ourselves feel good about the planting because we're anxious to know how it's coming along, or maybe we need to make management decisions and we need to know if things have germinated. So it's really, we want to be able to tell the weeds from the natives sometimes. So Indian grass, its tiller base is flattened. Switchgrass is also kind of a lookalike, but there's a tuft of hair right in here. And so different characteristics are going to pull those things apart, but if you've got the characteristics we've talked about and they all add up, you're like, there's a good chance I've got a wild rye seedling here in front of me. So now that we've seen what these seedlings look like in a controlled setting, let's actually go to the field and look at it, because it's a whole different world when you're out there on your hands and your knees and you're crawling around looking for this thing in amongst everything else that's germinating. So let's go to the field with Colt.
So let's go Hamilton here, Hamilton Native Outpost. It's early spring. We're about April 20th, and we're out here in a field that we planted to early wild rye. All the ryes come on about together, but the main goal today, they all come on and look the same. They about all come on together. Main goal of this video though is to show you how to identify a rye seedling. So if you've recently planted a diverse native grassland that has rye in it, or if you've planted a monoculture field of rye, this is what we're looking for to come up here in the spring. So it started to come up about 2 weeks ago, but they're continuing to still germinate as we get rain and they don't all come on together. Here is a sample of an early wild rye seedling that I've dug up, and get it out of the shadow here. This blue-green almost looks more purplish than anything else. This is a seedling rye plant that's probably, I'm going to guess, 2 weeks old. So when he came up originally, he would have just been one spear of grass about that tall. Is about as early as you could identify him. Then he starts to grow. This is actually his second leaf. This is his first. So he'll start to add on more leaves and tiller out more branches. And they'll grow in length with each as the plant gets more robust of a root system. So to identify it, the one big factor is that purple color. They can range from purple to kind of a blue-green. A lot of the other seedlings will not look that blue-greenish, so that's a good indicator. A lot of your ragweed, or not ragweed, a lot of your crabgrass, foxtail, annual weeds will come up with much more of a green color, or even almost a pea green color. So as another way to identify them is we're going to take and start to break this soil away. Get you back here in the picture. I'm going to take and start to break this soil away really, hopefully gently, from this plant. Now, what you'll have underneath the ground is we'll be able to find the husk of the rye seed that started this individual rye plant. And so if we peel that away really carefully, you see that right there, that tan-colored, elongated piece of plant. Or then, get that out of the way. Okay, that right there is the seed. So with your grass seedlings, unlike your forb seedlings, the seed coat does not move. So you have your seed coat just under the surface of the soil or on it, and you have a leaf that comes out and starts the rye plant going up, and you have a root then that heads down into the ground to do what roots do. The seed will stay in place, whereas with a forb, the seed actually grows out and up and becomes part of the leaves. So with grasses, you can always dig down carefully and find that seed coat of the original rye. I'll see if I can get it pulled off here to actually show you, get all the dirt off and show you what it looks like. So yeah, we're getting really close here. That is the original, the husk of seed that contained that kernel that actually started that plant. So you can see right there the 3 awns of the ryegrass seed. And that's the easiest way to identify them in my mind, is to dig down, find that seed coat when you can. If it's foxtail, it'll be a little round ball. If it's crabgrass, it'll be, actually crabgrass it's really hard to find because it's not, there's not much to it. It's more like a piece of sand. So rye is really easy to tell. This also works on your native warm season grasses. If you remember what your bag of seed looked like, then you should be able to find those down in the ground underneath. So the blue-green color, a single leaf coming up to start with. I'll see if I can find you. Yeah, here's one. Here's the rye seedling, a little more green to him. He's actually got 3 leaves. He's just a little bit older, probably another week older. This one's really blue-green. That was his original leaf. It's starting to die back. This would have been his second leaf, and this is his third, and the 4th one will come out of the center of that. So this is one's a little bit further along. Still keeping that blue-green color there, but starting to turn more green. If we dug down, you should be able to still see that seed husk down there in it. Here's another one that is quite a bit younger than the first one we looked at. He's kind of got a reddish purple look to him. He's definitely not, he's just a single spear leaf at this point. He's probably like 2 or 3 days old. So he's just coming on quick. Or had just come on here recently. Still would be able to find the seed coat down there underneath the ground. So anyways, this is kind of what you're looking for as your seedlings start to come up.
I'm Elizabeth with Hamilton Native Outpost, and I've been with Colt today. Our goal has been to show you how to tell the wild rye seedlings from some other things, give you characteristics, take you to the field with us, and give you that experience. We're blessed here at Hamilton Native Outpost to actually get to work with these native plants, learn about them, and sell seed to people like you so that you too can do a planting, and we want you to be successful with that planting. Learn more about how to do plantings or follow us on our different social medias. Check out our website, hamiltonnativeoutpost.com.